Donald Trump has been caught in the act ordering the Secret Service to cover up his dark past, as Donald Trump has filed these frivolous lawsuits, in my opinion, in his personal capacity against organizations like the BBC, which Donald Trump claims defamed him. When you have entities like BBC fighting back and sending subpoenas to get information about Donald Trump's dark past to people like Don Jr., because some of Donald Trump's allegations in his so-called $10 billion lawsuits relate to third-party witnesses like Don Jr., Donald Trump is ordering, apparently, according to filings, the Secret Service to literally shield and block Don Jr. from getting served. Do you also recall that when Michael Wolff sued Melania over Donald Trump's dark past, one of the main issues that Melania raised to a Trump-appointed judge in the Southern District of New York was that she couldn't be served. And because she couldn't be served, that case had to be dismissed. Ultimately, Viscasel, the name of the federal judge who Trump appointed in the Southern District of New York in the Melania case, ruled that the judge just didn't have jurisdiction and said, go on, Melania, I don't have jurisdiction over this Michael Wolff case. But if you want to sue Michael Wolff for defamation, then I may be able to hear this case. But over and over again, this Trump regime, they act tough. Donald Trump files a $10 billion lawsuit. Melania says that she's going to sue Michael Wolff for $1 billion. Then Wolff sues her. Don Jr. calls out all of these people on his social media platform. But then what do these cowards do? They run and they use the faculties of the federal government to try to block subpoenas because they don't want to turn over documents. They don't want to sit for depositions. They don't want to have to answer under oath. And in this BBC case, I'm going to go through these filings with you. Guess what the Trump regime did again? They had the Department of Justice try to intervene in federal court to file a notice of interest to try to block subpoenas to Don Jr., to Ivanka, to various federal agencies, to other people who don't even work in the federal government. And the Department of Justice is saying, we think that the BBC does not have a right to defend itself in a $10 billion lawsuit that Donald Trump filed against the BBC. So a few months back, Donald Trump sued the BBC in his personal capacity, not as the president of the United States. Like the weak, pathetic thing he is, he sued for $10 billion. He loved that headline. And the BBC's playing hardball. They're not playing by Wall Street Journal or New York Times rules where they just file a motion to dismiss and wait to propound discovery. The BBC says, okay, we're going to send out a ton of subpoenas and we want all of the financial documents, Donald, from your trust, because we want to see if you claim you've been injured $10 billion. Show us the money. Show us your financials. We know that since you've been in office, you've been profiting to the tune of billions of dollars. Show us your losses if you're claiming a $10 billion loss. So if you're going to bring a $10 billion lawsuit, then do it. Man up, person up, step up, do it. But what did Donald Trump do? No, you can't do the trust. I don't want to give you those records. I'm not going to give you my tax information. I'm just going to go and do social media posts on Truth Social where I whine and complain and attack you, but I don't want to deal with it in court because that's how pathetic these people are. That's how pathetic they are. And the BBC then said, okay, well, one of the things you're accusing us of doing is editing footage in a documentary that like really nobody even saw to make it appear that you, Donald Trump, were responsible for inflaming the January 6th insurrection. So let's just accept we made the edits. So we need to then prove that it somehow defames you, Donald, to say that you inflamed or incited the January 6th insurrection. So let's litigate J6. Let's litigate your dark past in other areas. Let's litigate all this stuff about you because you've injected this. Oh, and you're saying that you are emotionally distressed, that you, tough guy, Mr. Tough Guy, that you face severe psychological trauma as a result of the BBC video? Okay, well then let's bring up more information about your dark past. And how about the psychological trauma you caused the Epstein survivors? How about your efforts there? How about the various cases you think that the BBC defamed you? You've been found civilly liable for sexual assault. So you're going to say, we hurt your reputation? Maybe your own conduct hurt your reputation. So what does Trump do? Secret Service to block the subpoenas. I want you to think about that. Oh, and by the way, in the recent status update before the court, BBC just laying Donald Trump out. And they go, look, Donald Trump sent us discovery. We're getting sued for $10 billion. We turned over 87,000 documents. Donald Trump, July 14th or so, turned over for the first time, I don't know, a few hundred documents for the very first time. And this litigation's been going on for quite some time. Where are the other documents? Turn it over. Discovery cutoff is October of this year. We ain't going to let him run out the clock. Take a look at this motion by BBC. And you know, one of the things that sets the MeidasTouch network apart from lots of these other networks and corporate news, we read the footnotes. This isn't where we talk about the issues for 10 seconds and then have a split screen and this person fights that person. It's all about arming you with the information. By the way, what I talk about in our book, WTF America, comes out in October. Pre-order your copy of WTF America now. On one of these sides is the QR code. It's dedicated to you, the Midas Mighty. It's climbing the charts thanks to you as well. Pre-order it. Okay, let's get into it. Defendant BBC's response to the government's statement of interest. So the government, the United States, wants to intervene in the case of Donald J. Trump in his personal capacity versus the BBC. And the BBC says, first, in violation of basic principles of standing, the government challenges all of defendants' subpoenas, the BBC's subpoenas, including those sent to private individuals like Don Jr. and organizations like WinRed, the RNC, and others. Why would the federal government be representing Don Jr.? Second, contrary to the federal rules of civil procedure, the government purports to challenge defendant subpoenas outside of the district where the compliance with those subpoenas is required. In other words, BBC says, Donald, you idiot, you Dumbo, you stupid, sorry, you sued us. I get carried away. You sued us in the Southern District of Florida. The rules say if you want to quash the subpoena as the federal government, you got to do that in DC. You can't intervene in this case. What are you doing? Third, WTF, what are you doing? Third, repeating plaintiffs' flawed arguments, the government errs by minimizing the relevance of the records defendant seeks and inflating the burden that the subpoenas impose. In other words, the federal government is now intervening in a private civil case where Trump sued the BBC for $10 billion. You're parroting Trump's frivolous arguments about why the BBC shouldn't be able to defend itself when they're being sued for $10 billion. I don't know. Maybe when you sue somebody for $10 billion, you should probably be prepared beyond just getting a headline that you can post on Truth Social and act like Mr. Tough Guy. That's one of my whole things about this stuff. Like, you want to fight, you want to litigate the case, then go into court. Sit for a deposition, you pathetic weasel. He does, then he runs and he cowers. And by the way, you can extrapolate that deeper as well and even talk about how he deals with everything. It's weak. It's pathetic, right? It's the same type of, I'm going to huff and I'm going to puff and I'm going to blow your house down. And then you confront him to his face and he's like, oh, actually, I like you. Actually, I don't want to sit for a deposition. You think about it, acting all tough when it comes to this catastrophic war in Iran that he's going to do. And then it's, I'm in, I'm out. They want to do a deal. They don't want to do a deal. Dude, just don't start catastrophic things and then compound the catastrophic thing over and over again. Before continuing, one quick PSA for the Meidas Mighty when it comes to Medicare. Most Medicare agents push Medicare Advantage plans even when they're not right for you because they make more money doing it. That's why we strongly recommend you do what thousands in our audience have already done. Speak with Chapter, please. They don't just share the amazing benefits of Medicare Advantage. They explain the pros and cons of all your Medicare options. Original Medicare, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Part D. Chapter supports you in comparing every plan against your specific healthcare needs because they want to ensure you have the best coverage for you. One Chapter member, Jill, said her advisor presented options she didn't even see on the Medicare.gov website. And in many cases, Chapter saves people over $1,100 a year by getting them on the right plan. So if you're on Medicare or will be soon, dial 82 Medicare and get honest advice from Chapter. That's 82 Medicare. It's free and quick. They can review your options in under 20 minutes. If you're on the right plan already, they'll tell you. If you're not, they can help you save thousands the way they have with thousands of members of the Meidas Mighty. Fourth, despite defendants' caution on this very point, the government's decision to file this statement raises grave ethical concern, sure does, just like the ones that the Honorable Kathleen M. Williams addressed earlier this week. That's the judge in the Southern District of Florida also in the case that Trump in his individual capacity sued the federal government, Department of Treasury, and the IRS for $10 billion there. You see a pattern right here. He sued the federal government this year for $10 billion and then tried to reach a settlement with himself to give himself a super pardon to waive all of the tax liability and tax evasion throughout his life, basically, $10 billion. And the judge is like, no, that's collusive and improper. Same law firm representing Trump. You're working with the federal government to do these collusive settlements? That's why the judge imposed serious sanctions there. And here, also in the Southern District of Florida, the BBC saying, here's another $10 billion lawsuit. And now the government is in the DOJ. The DOJ is intervening to not allow us to get discovery about Donald Trump when he sues us for $10 billion. It's like, Donald, you sued for $10 billion. You don't think that they should be able to propound discovery, to get subpoenaed information, to get your documents? And just think about how pathetic that is. It's like you huff and you puff, then you run like, I got protection. The DOJ is going to represent me. The DOJ. That's why, to me, folks, isn't a Democrat, Republican, independent thing, although these MAGA Republicans have become some of the most pathetic bootlickers I've ever possibly seen. But this is just about like normalcy. Normalcy. And by the way, I'm gonna plug it. There's some people like, Ben, don't plug your book all the time. I'm proud of it, damn it. Because I'm proud of you. I'm proud of his community, and I want to keep on talking about it. Sorry. So you go down to this footnote right here, and it says, ironically, the government complains about the subpoena to Mr. Trump Jr., even though the government itself, specifically the U.S. Secret Service, has to date prevented defendant BBC from serving the subpoena on Mr. Trump Jr. You had Melania hiding out in the Michael Wolff case. You've got Don Jr. hiding out, and you've got Donald Trump hiding out now behind the DOJ to not produce discovery. I just say, I don't care what political party you're from. If you don't like politics, like, this is pathetic human behavior, and it's weak sauce. It's loser behavior, in my opinion. Just so you can see for yourself, this is what the federal government filed in this case. They're not a party to the case. It's Trump the individual versus BBC. Statement of interest by the United States of America. This case concerns allegations that Trump, in his personal capacity, writes the DOJ, that the editing of a documentary about him produced by the BBC in 2024, while he was a private citizen, constituted defamation or an unfair trade practice under Florida law. Yeah, it's a private dispute, and it's a stupid, frivolous one, in my opinion. So why the hell are you involved, DOJ? Then it goes on to say over here, The government feels that the subpoenas do not adequately explain the BBC's need for requested documents and do not reflect consideration of voluminous public release of materials by federal entities. Should the court permit any of the subpoenas to proceed in some fashion, it should permit the respondent federal entities to raise these issues. I found this part interesting in the motion as well. Page 3. This is what it says about why the BBC should not be able to get January 6th related documents. They go, this is what the federal government says. This is what the DOJ says. The events of January 6, 2021 have been the subject of extensive investigation and inquiry. As a result, many agencies have published records related to January in their FOIA reading room, as noted in Table 1. The FBI says January 6 documents are available here. DOJ says documents are available here. DHS available here. NPS says it's available here. Third parties have also made the documents produced by the federal government in response to FOIA requests available in the public domain. That's so fascinating, because doesn't Donald Trump always say that Biden and Jack Smith and the DOJ deleted all the January 6 documents? Isn't that what Trump? Oh, wait a minute. The DOJ is saying that all these documents are publicly available because now they want to avoid subpoenas from the BBC because pathetic Donald Trump in his individual capacity sued the BBC for $10 billion and now Donald Trump doesn't want to do discovery. Let me play that clip for everybody of Donald Trump. I could show you 1,000 clips of him saying it, but I'll just play one.
Election. I think it's ridiculous what happened and that they allowed that to happen and that the media doesn't want anybody to talk about it. But now we can. And we did something yesterday, now that we have the subpoena power, because we now have subpoena power, all of a sudden the J6 committee, the unselects, I call them, everything was deleted and destroyed. The documents, everything was deleted and destroyed. That's a criminal act.
Doesn't even know it.
They took the unselect committee that, investigated stuff. It found out that we were right on everything. They burned all the information because we were right on everything. Nancy Pelosi knew. I told her, I said, I'll give you 10,000 troops, January 6th. I'll give you 10,000 troops if you'd like. No, we don't want them. Oh, well, they found out that was true. They found out it was true. They burned everything. And Biden gave them a pardon. He gave these people in the committee, Congress people, he gave them a pardon.
Well, there you have it, folks. How sinister, how sick, how weak, how weak. And here's the thing, too. Like, if you're Iran, if you're Putin, if you're Xi Jinping, if you're Netanyahu, if you're whoever, even if whoever you are, the psychological profile you create on this weak thing, this weak creature in the Oval Office who behaves like that, you can extrapolate a lot about how weak he is from this behavior, even right here. Right here. Hit subscribe. Pre-order it if you can. But do pre-order now. It's helpful if you pre-order it now if you can. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million.
Breaking news right now. My brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.